Or to the cloud. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the July 15th, Tuesday, July 15th segment of Speaker Co-working. I am the guest host for today, Angela Lewis, Head of Customer Success at Speaker Hub. And on this call every day, we talk about the speaking industry, building your speaking business, and how to use your intellectual property to create products and services that will allow you to build the life that you want. And so today, as always, we start with wins, and very excited to jump into a conversation today about the life that you want and how we can create a business that allows that to happen for us. So that's the goal for today. Let's start with wins. What wins do we have? Who wants to share? Yes. Okay, Linda, hopping right in there.
Again, it's a huge personal win, but since we're talking about what makes us who we are, I'm a poet, and in my heritage is a poet who founded the Poetry Society of America. She is my grandfather's great aunt, and they let me know they had a painting of her like 3 years ago, and I went to see it. And anyway, it's been a 3-year saga, but yesterday, arriving at my front door, I now they have loaned me the painting for my life and for, yeah, you want to see it?
Absolutely.
I think I can. I mean, it won't look how it looks, but
That's amazing. Sometimes we don't know how we became who we are. There's so much history and legacy within our families that is beautiful, Linda. I don't know if you know you're on mute, but we can't hear you. I feel like you're saying something.
yeah, I pushed that as I was trying to carry my laptop. So there's Jessie Bell Rittenhouse. First
Incredible.
first recipient of the Robert Frost Medal for Poetry, and she she worked to like promote poetry in the United States like big time. Um, she in her autobiography says she could have written better poetry and she could have written more poetry, but she chose instead to like go to libraries. Like she crisscrossed the country speaking on behalf of poetry and promoting it. So anyway, for me, that was like, I was literally like, just like, so gonna have a big welcome home Jessie party. So you're all
That's amazing. Very amazing. Well, but what I love is that you have like inspiration and motivation around you. And for so many of us, it makes a difference. If you can wake up and see something that lights you and that lights up your soul and gives you purpose, we need those reminders. So that is so beautiful that you have that. So
thank you.
beautiful. Thank you,
The,
Linda. So
the
that
part
means
of the
you're gonna,
story that I
oh
hesitated
yes.
to tell was that when I went to New York to see this painting, it was in a broom closet. Yeah.
Wow.
So uh, I didn't think it belonged there, which is why
Yeah.
so anyway, happy
No,
end
it's an,
to that story.
yeah. So you're inspired to do even more, is what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Linda. Valencia. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, you
Hey
look like you did your
everybody.
makeup
Can you
today.
hear
You
me
look like
now?
you're ready. You look like you're ready for something
I
today, Valencia. I
did.
see you face beat. Okay.
Well, you know, thank you so much. I was on an incredible podcast today, and it was thank you so much. I'm at a restaurant, sorry. And it was Najika's, I'm not sure your name wrong, Njika's podcast, and she did phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that. The questions that she had, we didn't go over any questions or anything, but the questions that she had was spot on. I mean, the flow was amazing. Okay. And I'm just, I'm thinking about my message when I started this whole journey with podcasts. My message has been refined and gotten a lot better and a lot clearer. So that is wonderful,
Yes.
the journey that I've been on with that. And I got another podcast to do right after this too. So all of this is thanks to Speaker Hub. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We dish out the hearts too. Very, very excited to hear that you're refining your message. It is one of the key reasons that we advocate for podcasts. I had a call yesterday with someone who's thinking about our service, and she goes, I've done enough podcasts. I really just want to get to conferences and associations. And I asked, well, how many podcasts have you been on? And she said, oh, I've done 20. I feel like that's enough. And I said, okay, I'm not going to argue with her about what she thinks is enough for her, but I told her that we advocate for it, talked to her about the speaker flywheel. But Valencia, I love that you were refining your message and the podcasts are helping. And I think she should do some more because it never um, it never gets old. The conversations are always fresh and new questions. So Jadika, kudos to you for asking great questions and creating your own platform. And your hand is up, Jadika. You have some wins?
Well, my biggest win every day is all of my colleagues who are here on Speaker Hub. The one thing I can say is the real value of Speaker Hub is what I call collaborations. And I have met so many wonderful people that I have connected with and that have also been an asset to my growth and development, as well as we've been able to give and exchange and share with each other. So my win is Speaker Hub, 100%.
Thanks, Jadika. Thank you. Thank you. We believe in collaboration big time. I have a collaboration example that I'm going to share a little bit later. Before we get into that, any other wins? Anything else we're excited about or want to share? No? Okay. Okay. So today, let's talk about something I'm probably, okay, besides basketball and salsa dancing. Oh, okay. Let me put a pin in that. Yvette?
Yes, I'm sorry it took a while for me to raise my hands, but I
Anytime.
agree with you 100%, Njika. Thank you for mentioning that. I am going to speak at a conference in DC, and there's also a Medicaid vigil that's happening in DC. And I was asked to speak because I advocate with them often. They didn't even consider a stipend. So I asked. So I reached out and I said, this is exciting and thank you for reaching out. Is there a stipend or, an opportunity to, to be compensated for this talk? And I don't know that they considered it or had been asked, but they did offer a stipend, and it's something that I haven't really thought about even doing before Speaker Hub, and also bringing forth the information that I get through Speaker Hub and being able to deliver this message in a way that I probably would not have delivered it in the past is something I'm pretty excited about. And that, I'll be able to circle back and share. But more than anything, this is a fight for people with disabilities, and it's kept me pretty distracted since this administration had made some specific changes in the services and opportunities that, the least of these kids, people that are over the age of 65 and people with disabilities. So this is a big fight. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers. And, thank
Absolutely.
you for the strength that I receive just from each of you on this daily call.
Thank you. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you for sharing. Congrats on your upcoming speaking gig. And thank you for advocating because it's really important. We definitely need people to advocate. And so thank you for that. Any other wins? No? Okay. Okay. So let's talk about creating the life that you want. Creating the life that you want and using your business to create that life. And so when I was younger, we ask kids all the time, what do you want? What do you want to be when you grow up? As if you are one thing. All of us are really complex, and there's a lot of different parts to who we are. And so what I started talking to my nieces and nephews and little cousins about is, how do you want to live? Which is a very different question. So how often do you all think about how we want to live versus what we want to do? And I know we're all about action, so this is not a conversation around not taking action, but it's more of a pause to say, what's the point of all of this anyway? Why are we building these businesses, creating these products, creating the courses? Like, money, okay, yeah, you're going to make money because you're going to sell, but what's the point of creating the business to generate the income? What's the life that you want? So give us some thought as we go through this conversation today, because I didn't stop and slow down until COVID. Like many of us, like we were forced to stop and slow down and think about the life that we want. And the big shift for me happened when I thought about how I wasn't really happy with the way things were going, but I wanted something different. And a friend asked me, what is your ideal day? And that question changed everything for me. This is 2019. And then COVID happened right after that, a few months later. But she asked, what was your ideal day? And Valencia, I'm gonna get to in 1 second. When she asked that question, I wrote down all these different things that I was going to do. And I was flying here and flying there and doing this and doing that. And at that time, I was doing basketball camps and clinics and private lessons and running basketball events, which I love. But I didn't have a vision of the life that I wanted to align with the business that I had started. I just wanted to do the business. Does that make sense? Because I enjoyed it. But as AJ can attest, I definitely was not as joyous as I am now. And I didn't have the level of clarity and peace that I have now, because I never asked what was my ideal day and how do I want to live. I was just focused on doing as much as I could do, which is a race to nowhere. Because there isn't a destination. You're just doing. And it feels good because people are cheering for you. Keep going, you're great. But no one can tell us where we should ultimately end up but us. And if we don't take the time to think about why we're doing the things we're doing, we're just going to keep doing it and we'll never be fulfilled. Ron says often he has what many people don't, which is enough. And I think that is a really beautiful way to live. And so the race to enough is worth racing, but only I can decide what's enough for me. Camille, you're the only one who can decide. AJ, we're the only ones who can decide what's enough for us. So today it's about, what's the life that you want that gets you to enough? What's the life that you want to live? And then how do you create within that parameter to get to your enough? Valencia, I'm going to pause for a second. Valencia?
This is a great discussion because I was actually having this discussion with myself this morning when I got up, right? Because a lot of times we get into the hustle bustle, and me, I mean, I'm basically reinventing myself here in Kigali, right? And I said, Val, don't lose sight of what it is that you want to accomplish. Well, what is it that you want to accomplish, right? And I said, you know what I need to do? I need to go and do a vision board, because there are some things that I want. And as I hustle and bustle through life,
Oh, you're cutting up.
if I have a
Valencia,
pickup, I can
Valencia,
hone in on that.
Valencia, you're cutting
So,
in and out.
that's
You
what I
you cut Valencia, you cut in and out a little bit. Will you go over that
Yeah.
again?
Well, my phone is going out of juice right now. So, but you're so right. I'm going to do a vision board. And that's what I said.
And oh, okay, perfect. Yep, a vision board and then the action items to get there, because it's still going to require the action, but being able to see clearly the life that you want. I'm heavy on like living the life that I want, and I don't buy a lot of things. I've never been a shopper. That's just not. That's just how I am wired. But I think that it's really important to think about that. Okay, so we're thinking about the life that we want, and now the businesses that we're running. So I want to talk about a few different ways that I've run the same type of stage. So we talk about stages and people bring us in to speak or we have our podcast. But the biggest stage for me, honestly, has always been the basketball court. And so thinking about the stage, it's the first place that I gave my first speech. I was a freshman in college, and my old basketball coach asked me to come back and speak to the younger girls who were playing. It was the first speech. I remember having that adrenaline rush, like the runner's high, but like the speaker's high, where I was just, the adrenaline was something I had never experienced before. And so your stage can be a literal stage, but the conversation I want y'all to think about today is when we're creating the life that we want, what are the different ways that you can create a stage? It can be a podcast, but maybe it's a basketball court. Jadika, maybe it's a women's circles where you're talking about healing. Linda, maybe it's the poets group that you create and you go on walks in the park. Maybe you love basketball too. Maybe it's writing poetry about basketball on the court, right? Your stage doesn't have to be standing in front of people and with a suit jacket on and people clapping for you. That does not have to be the stage. We talk about stages. I just want us to think creatively about stages because I've always felt the most confident and comfortable in between the lines and not on a stage in heels. Lord knows. Give me some Nikes any day. Okay? If y'all see me in heels, just know it was part of the costume. It wasn't part of my choice for the day. So I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to come back to the stages, but I want you all to share what are some stages that would really connect with the core of who you are versus how the world sees what a stage is. Yes, Jadika.
This is a very interesting topic because if I had to, really go back and do a total reflection, how I want my day, I tell you, the way I want my day is I want to be able to live every day as Saturday. That's what I'm striving for. That's my ideal, that living every day as Saturday. That's what I want. Now, to achieve that, if I have to look at the action steps and what will be my stage, I always consider myself to be like, I'm a messenger. So that's the reason why I love doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I like doing things where I can bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is where I'm looking at different things like retreats and
Mm-hmm.
summer and summits. But I'm looking at it, thanks to AI, virtually, because that way you can have a whole global effect. So that's where I consider my stage as being a connector in terms of helping people share their messages that can be empowering to others. So that would be my stage.
Wonderful. So it's you actually creating summits and retreats virtually and every day feeling like Saturday. Let's unpack that. What does that mean exactly? What do your Saturdays feel like? Because my Saturday may be different than your Saturday.
You know what when I say every day is Saturday, I have taken back full control of my most valuable asset, my time. I can do anything I want, when I want it, and how I want it.
Okay. I saw Camille say amen. I saw that amen.
I was actually saying my time. When you
Oh,
said
my
take
time.
back my most valuable asset, I just so agree that to have control of your time is to have control of your life. I love it.
Absolutely. Okay, Jadika. Okay, so we're with you on that. Having your time and you creating the stage that you love, the way that you love it brings you joy. So it is possible to create those retreats, and that's part of your Saturdays feels like connecting people because that's what you do naturally, and that's what you love to do. Yep. Beautiful. So anyone else, what are the creative stages? So there's the virtual stage that's about healing. There's a small group circles that Jadika mentioned. I mentioned the basketball court. Where are stages? Yes, Linda.
Okay, so as much as you guys make fun of me for being timid in front of adults, if you put me in front of a group of kids, I'm like in my wheelhouse. So
Yes.
my favorite stages are like at an elementary school in front of 500 kids talking to them about literacy. Like I think it's so important that they
Hmm.
develop literacy skills, and I'm very, very, very comfortable. I mean, I sing, I dance, we do, I mean, it's a blast for me. So my ideal stage would be in front of kids. And
And
go
no, no, we're listening. I'm sorry. You just lit up, Linda, more than we've ever, and I mean, this is why we're here. Like, we want to create the stages that we know people are already, there's already an audience.
hmm
And so keep going, Linda. Let's talk about you in front of these
Well,
500 kids dancing.
well, for me, like at my age and at my stage of life, I really truly am more focused on legacy.
Hmm.
Like what makes me happy is to think that when I'm gone, I left something, like I made the world a better place. And
Yeah.
I feel like kids are, and literacy is my way of making that contribution. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely. So then how can you create more of those and get in front of, like, be in that space as much as possible and get paid?
start like going after it.
Okay.
I've I've only done it by invitation, when
Oh,
people contact me and say, "Hey, would you be willing to, come to our elementary school and speak?" I haven't really thought about outreach.
yes.
Yep.
Yet. That's why we're here today. We're going to create the stages that people are going to pay us to be on that bring us the most joy so that we can feel like every day is Saturday, like Jadika. Kevin and then Bonnie.
Oh, what Linda said kind of struck a chord with me because I light up in front of kids because right now, well, I retired from the post office 3 years ago after
Okay.
36 years working in an environment where with some crazy people that you and I was like a boss, a supervisor. So it's tricky managing people that know they can't be fired for
Yeah.
years. It takes years to fire them. So you have to learn some psychological tricks to get them to work. So while I enjoy talking to adults, I enjoy talking to kids because that's getting people to do what I love, which is focus on their goals and learn how to achieve their goals. And I believe a lot of it is about the journey and who you become even more than the destination because let's face it, the destination for us all is a
Yeah.
box in the dirt. So we don't want to rush to that. We want to rush to become what we are. And all of us need to define our purpose for that. Like, what do we want our lives to be? And we should be able to define our purpose in one sentence, which my purpose is, if y'all ready.
You know we were going to ask you, Kevin. You can't give
I
it
knew
without
you would.
you.
That's why I'm beating you to the punch on that one. My purpose is to be defined, to be inspirational, positive, and disciplined enough to improve myself, the lives of my family, my friends, and the world in that order.
All
So that's
right.
my life's purpose. So, hey, long as I can do that, and that's why I started even without getting money. That's why I mentor
Hmm.
people. I mentor kids right now, mentoring a 16-year-old Nigerian kid here in
Hmm.
Denver. And I do a prison ministry once or twice a month. I go to a prison to tell them guys on the other end who messed
Hmm.
up a lot of their life that your life still has value because you're here
Absolutely.
and you're
Absolutely.
still alive. And all of them are in there for murder. So some of them are kind of scary.
Well, Kevin, that's a powerful personal mission and purpose. Let's talk about monetizing that. How is more specifically, so Linda talked about literacy being the hook, right? Literacy is a hook. Kids need to learn how to read, talking to kids about literacy, creating products and services around literacy. What is your hook and
My
like
hook,
selling point? Mm-hmm.
my hook is my book. So I'm working on my book right now. And also with my book, I am working on a journal that I will be selling
Mm-hmm.
too, because I believe journaling is one of the most powerful
Yep.
ways of self-help, of getting your mind right, of getting rid of anxiety, of building yourself up, of defining your goals, of writing
It
down your
is.
mission statement, of it's just your book is what I've always said, even before I heard the other map guy on this channel, is your life's map. Your
The
memories
other
of your
map guy.
past,
That's funny.
the memories of your past, actions of your present, plans of your future, and your life's map is your journal. And if you write down in that journal the lessons you're learning, it's going to help guide you where you want to go.
Kevin, we are ready for your journal. I don't know. I think it was a couple months ago, and Valencia, someone was like, "Hey, I want the journal today." So we need that journal. The world needs your journal, Kevin. Come on now, get the journal
I
out.
know.
It's okay.
Life keeps
We,
throwing stuff at me.
we're gonna keep asking. Bonnie,
Okay.
thanks, Kevin. Bonnie, what is your ideal stage? We're talking about stages, creating the type of stage that you want.
Okay, well, I need to connect with Linda and Kevin. Oh my gosh, they're so amazing. Because Linda, yes, me too, teacher for years, love kids, love hanging out with middle school kids and all the energy and all the sass and everything that comes with that. And I really miss it since I retired last year. Um, and I was surprised as a staff coach, I was surprised how many people I worked with were perfectly fine talking in front of the kids, but were absolutely terrified if the audience was adults. That isn't me. I'm comfortable in both places, but a lot of the teachers that I coached were dealing with that very thing. I just found that so interesting. But yeah, you get in front of kids and it's like it's performance art, right? And there's everything fun about it all the time. So I need to get back to that. And rather than the middle school space, I need to also, like Linda, push it out there because I need to do the more of the the connecting on my own, that way more than I'm doing because I'm
Mhm.
really interested in working with high school kids making the transition to whatever's next and college students making the transition to what's next, dealing with the anxiety and stress and environment and the
Mhm.
world is ending and all the people in the government are crazy and all this stuff that they're facing right now.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming to say the least. So that stage I need to develop, but one that I'm on, a stage that I'm getting onto is senior living facilities for senior boomer seniors, um, senior living facilities. And you talk about, you have so much life left, and there's still so much that you can give and connections that it can make.
Mhm.
So I'm working on that. And then just yesterday, speaking of stages, I went to my first Death Cafe. I don't know if anyone's heard of this. Death Cafe is a gathering of seniors. It's not therapy, but it does talk about end of life decisions and end of life experiences, like what happened when your spouse passed away, and how did you handle this, and
Wow.
what are you looking forward to? Fascinating sitting with this group of seniors, like some of the stuff that they have overcome, and some of the stuff that they have dealt with. And I learned so much sitting there for an hour with them. But I see that as I just sat there with my mouth shut and I plan to do that for a while. I want to learn. But I see that as a potential stage for listening
Yeah.
to all of the grief and the stress and the anxieties that all these people have. I feel like I'm in the right place for sure. And yeah,
Thank
so
you.
balancing that with kids will be fun.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for that. So for Bonnie, what you're saying is you're looking to create a similar type experience with the Death Cafe, and then with kids, you want to create an experience around anxiety as they transition.
Yes, about the kids for sure. And no, not necessarily separate from the Death Cafe, but if I am welcomed into that, and who knows if people want to work individually or in their own space, that'd be fine. But I'm really working into speaking and listening to Odell Bazell lately, consulting for
Yeah.
senior living. Those places are mostly owned by corporations now,
There.
right?
Yeah.
For how do you want to retain your staff? How do you want your staff to be happier? How do you
Sure.
want your residents to be glad that they moved in? How do you want to get more business that way? It all comes down to managing yourself
It
and manage,
does.
yeah, right? How to manage what
Yeah.
comes at you. If you haven't managed yourself, good luck. So yeah.
Yep. No, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for that. One thing that's interesting about that Bonnie mentioned, Odell has published a book for all the possible issues that can occur with his target market. So he was targeting universities. So if there was an issue, he would talk to them about, what they needed speakers, what they wanted speakers to talk about, if it was leadership, if it was communication, if it was transitioning to college. So he has published 25 books or more about that specific, about for that target market. So if you lock in on
Wow.
the target market and then continue to serve them at the highest level possible. Hi, Lawrence. Hi, Say Ron. Welcome, welcome. Today we're talking about creating the life that you want and using the business that you're creating to create the life that you want. In addition, we've been having a discussion about alternate stages. I mentioned earlier that my favorite stage of all time is in between the lines on the basketball court. It's where I started speaking. It's where I gave my first speech. Being in the locker room before games at halftime, I always had a speech for the team. And doing camps and clinics is where I've spoke the most. So for some people, it's if you have a corporate background or, Camille, you're used to standing in front of corporate. I've never worked corporate in my life. I feel really awkward and uncomfortable in those settings. So they are not best for me. But put me in between the lines, I am good to go. But I want to talk a few more things about your stage and the different models of ways that you can create services around whatever unique stage you create. But Lawrence, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll dive into that before we head out.
Now, obviously, I joined in pretty late. I had a meeting right before this, but hopefully what I'm about to say is relevant. When you said alternative stages, and then hearing about the Dev Cafe, I began thinking about ways that we can make a stage in our day-to-day life. One thing I used to do before I was going on podcasts and physical stages is I would go, I'm not recommending anybody to necessarily do this, but what I used to do is I would go on street corners, and you know the phrase of people saying getting up on your soapbox?
Mm-hmm.
I would take a box and I would stand on top of it and give a soapbox speech on street corners. Other times
Amazing.
I would do this on trains, parks, anywhere where it was legal for me to do it. And that helped me to get past like the social anxiety of what if people are judging me? And what if they think this
Yeah.
about me? Trust me, I've
Lawrence,
had people take photos of me and record me and be like, what is this guy doing? Then there were other people who were like, wait, what's your social media? And I'm like, here's my business card.
Lawrence, that is incredible. It takes an immense amount of courage to be willing to literally stand on a soapbox and to put yourself out there. We love having you here because you inspire all of us. That's amazing. And so it's like the pregame warm up to your actual speech. It's how
Yeah.
you get yourself ready. I love that
Well,
idea of doing a talk before your talk to
at
prepare.
that time, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but at that time when I was doing those, I didn't have stages that was going on. So the street corner was my stage.
Got
And
it.
doing that,
It's perfect. Thank you.
it helps you realize that, okay, there's not that much of a difference in people's opinion of you compared to on the street corner or
Sure.
people who decide I'm going to go to this event with this speaker.
Sure.
Because the
Yep.
people who deliberately have decided I'm going to go here to hear these people talk, they're going to have a way higher opinion of you than the people who are trying to get to work and you are disrupting the peace.
100%. No, you're absolutely right. The people are going to talk either way. Either way. Say Ron, welcome, welcome. We've obviously already shared wins, but you're welcome to join. I mean, to share those if you've had any thus far. And then before we head out, I want to talk about a few different ways to interact with your target market on your stage. So whatever your creative stage is, it can be the traditional stage, but for me, what I found super valuable The first is one-to-one. So for some, that's online coaching, but it can be in your whatever environment. Linda, it may be going into the school. Kevin, it may be doing a one-on-one session with someone who's journaling. Maybe it's a one-on-one journaling session where you're where you're coaching and teaching about journaling. Jadika, it may be one-on-one. So it's one-on-one. For me, one-on-one on the basketball court, top tier to anything else, any other type of one-on-one scenario. The other thing, of course, is one-to-many. Now, Jadika, this may look like you creating an event and inviting people to pay to be a part of it. So I've held basketball training sessions, 6-week program where parents would pay for their kids to get a 6-week basketball training. And it's whatever price point it was. I would rent the location. I would do all of the marketing myself, and people would come there, and they would be from different schools, different basketball teams, right? So think about your stage. You can rent the space or create an Eventbrite or create whatever event. People would pay to show up. Got it? So we have one-to-one. We have one-to-many where you purchase the location, rent the location. The third thing that I've done that has worked well also is one-to-many, but I'm going in and actually administering the program for an organization and for a team. So there's a basketball club, 6th grade team, they need someone to train. They hire me to go in, and the team actually collects the fees, and then they would pay me to do the 6-week training. It's literally the same exact model as the other group training, except this time I already know the people who are going to be there and they're already connected. But we would run literally the same program. We wouldn't have to create a new program. It's the same program, but I didn't have to do all the marketing. Got it? So we have the one-to-one, we have the one-to-many, the two models, create the event or go into an organization. The third model that I've done before, which worked out really well also, is consulting for an organization. So there is a rec center in St. Louis, and they needed programming. So I'm just speaking basketball because this is what I've done. You can apply these models to whatever your industry is. So there was a recreation center in the St. Louis area. They didn't have anyone with my expertise who could teach basketball, but they had a ton of kids. Linda, we go to where the kids are already. I learned after trying to do events, go to where the people are already and where they're already paying. They're already members. So I was going to this rec center, y'all, and I was doing one-on-one training, as I mentioned. And they came to me and said, we have to kick you out. They said, no, you can't do private lessons here because we're not getting a cut. So you and all these trainers come in, you do the private lessons, the people pay you, and all you pay is the $5 entry fee. That doesn't work for us. The members are complaining. So I'm sorry, but you have to go. I was like, dang, business was flowing. I was just starting to pick up my clientele. And a month later, they called me and they said, hey, okay, all these kids here actually want to do basketball training. Can we work out a deal? I'm like, yes, because some money is better than no money. So what we ended up doing, in addition to having them list me as a trainer in the programming, we ran spring and summer programs, and they listed me in their manual, and parents signed up, and I never had to market anything. It was beautiful. We ran a 70-30 split. I got 70, they got 30. They managed the marketing, they managed the registrations, and they had all of the equipment. So I didn't have to haul basketballs or any of that. If there was an issue, the parents talked to them. And what was even better is they had staff who they were already paying to be there at the times of the event. So their staff helped out. So I got staff, operations, equipment, and all I had to do is show up and run an excellent program. So think about whatever business you're in, whoever your target is, are there a group of them that are already paying to be a part of an organization that they can then just hire you and you all run a profit share and you run 70-30. The hardest thing, I'm not famous, obviously. for those of us who aren't famous, which is most of the world, it's really hard to get people to come to your event unless they know you. So partnering with people who already have your target market, that's already paying for the service, and they can do the marketing, which is typically the hardest part for us because we know the thing, but we aren't necessarily experts at marketing. It can be tremendous. They have hundreds of people on their email list. Use the email list and go in and provide the service. Lawrence, you have a question?
No, I just had a comment on ways that people can rent locations. So I use a co-working space called Regus, or they have a lot of different names under their brand,
Mm-hmm.
but it's called Regus
Yep.
Spaces, things like that. They
Co-working.
have
Mhm.
co-working offices all around the world. Like no matter where
Yep.
you are, they have one nearby. And you can rent a training room there for, at least in America, you
cheap.
can rent one for a 7-person room is only about $100
Yep.
per hour.
Yep.
So they also do allow people to hold their own events there, and they will configure the room for you. They'll bring coffee. They'll do everything you need for $100 an hour.
Awesome.
So
That is.
if anyone here planning on doing their own
Mhm.
events, I highly recommend that.
And the great thing about thank you, Lawrence. The great thing about co-working spaces, I see Bonnie talks about her Pilates studio. There are all of these spaces that already have a ton of people that are there already. Recently, I was asked to speak at this summit. It was called the Game Changer Summit. It was about athletes and NIL deals and branding. And I talked about how to communicate with power and presence. That was my presentation. And there weren't very many kids there. The event organizer afterwards said, how do we get more people here? So you have to go to where they are. Like, it's the summertime. This is on a Monday and it's all day. They're just not going to be available. Either their parents are at work, they don't have cars. It's on a college campus, so they'll need transportation, and the college students aren't here. So although there were some wonderful speakers, information was phenomenal, we just weren't where the people were. So go to where they are is my advice on that. Was that helpful? Awesome. So thinking about the life that you want, and then how do you create the type of stage that is profitable, people are already paying for, and then who can you partner with to ensure that it will be successful? Ron talks all the time about the partnerships he did early on with PitchDB that ultimately led to Speaker Hub. So look for partnerships with people who already have your target market. I try to create things on my own all the time, and it was definitely more challenging. Definitely more challenging. And then before we go, there's one more thing I want to share. We had a call this morning. We had a team meeting this morning about more changes. By Linda, no worries, about some really cool things that we're going to do. And we talked about this book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Have y'all heard of that book? Dr. Benjamin Hardy, Dan Sullivan. It's so good. Here's the premise. To 2X wherever we are, to get a little bit better, double our productivity, we can just do a little bit more of what we're already doing, right? Just a little bit more. If we want to really excel and get to this big dream, this is why I started with the big dream. If we really want to get to that, that's going to require us to think differently and to be differently. I'll give you an example. You're reading Gap in the Gain. Yes, Gap in the Gain is so good, Bonnie. The Gap in the Gain is so good. So to 10X our lives, and that could be money, that could be freedom, that could be relationships, whatever it is, we have to literally stop doing about 80% of what we were doing in order to get to that life. I told you guys at the beginning of this how my friend asked what was my ideal day. That question changed my life and took me to this 10X. So she asked what was my ideal day. I wrote down all these things. That was a lot of nothing. And I realized this is actually not what I want. What I really want is to see the mountains. I want to be able to walk outside and go to the cafe. I want to be able to dance, all night with my friends. I wanted it to be calmer and more peaceful. And that ultimately led me to Colombia. I'm not saying you have to leave the country. What I am saying is if we can get clear about the life that we want to live, then the decisions that you make will help you get there. What I ended up doing was selling everything and getting rid of the car, getting rid of all of the little things and rental properties, a ton of things, and ultimately went to Colombia. I can deep dive another day about that, but that led me to starting the PR agency. So I went to Colombia. I'm sorry. Let me take one step back. I went to Colombia to do a basketball clinic. So I was already doing the same thing, already had that stage. I already had a competency. I was invited there to do a basketball clinic. Clinic was amazing. And then when I got there, I saw my ideal day. So your gifts are going to make room for you. I know we've heard that one before. Your gifts will make room for you. Get clear about your ideal day and move toward it. And when the opportunity opens up, you'll be ready to take advantage of it and to live in that ideal day and ideal moment. I know we just have a couple minutes, but I wanted to share that it is possible to get to the vision, get clear about the vision, and then get rid of the things that are stopping you from getting there. And you can still keep the same stages that you had. It may look different and evolve, but it is still very much possible. Is that helpful? I'm a huge fan of Dr. Ben Hardy's books. He really pushes journaling. So he does. Do you get his emails? This is a plug for Ben Hardy. I met him at an event, Genius Network, years ago. And he was like, he's so kind. It's like, however I can help you, let me know. But he sends these emails for journal prompts. Dr. Benjamin Hardy, check him out. He wrote, I think it was 3 or 4 books with Dan Sullivan, The Gap and the Gain, 10X is Easier Than 2X, Who Not How. And then he just came out with a couple more books about scaling. Check him out. But every Friday he sends journal prompts. So he's definitely worth looking into and following his methods. So think about the life that you want. Create the stages that allow you to live in that life that you want, because we still have to make some cash to live the life that we want. It's not going to be funded out of the air. So you still have to work, but it's possible to do it in a way that is authentic to who you are and to the stages that give you the most joy. You don't have to follow the stages of others, because it'll be clear that it's not authentic, and that's people want authenticity more than anything these days. Any questions, y'all? Any comments or your thoughts?
It's been a good day of mindset work. So thank you for that, because it all starts in our mind.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It does. It sure does.
Thank you, Angela. It's good to hear your story and your background. I think, I don't know if you shared it before, but for me, it was the first time. So
yeah, no,
a different light now.
You're welcome. No, I never share it. And so I felt like I need to just share more because there were a bunch of little decisions that landed me here. And I think that those experiences are valuable. And as we talk about stages, I know the stages where I resonate the most. And I just don't want you all to feel like, because we talk about stages, that you have to fit into these stages that don't make sense for you just so that you can get more money and get the business. But it's going to feel, discomfort isn't a problem. Being out of alignment is a problem, especially when you know in the depths of you what alignment looks like. You can be in alignment and still build the business that you want. All right, on that note, we're 2 minutes into overtime. I'm going to let y'all go. Thank you all so much. I am sweating now because that is what happens when I am my most authentic self. I sweat. Are there any other sweaters? Oh my God, I just said that live on YouTube. I'm going to have to ask. I'm going to have to ask everyone to take that part out. No, I am so sweaty. Okay, guys. Gonna let you go. Bye.